They say when a dog barks, there's a reason, and that night the house was deafening. My girlfriend Maya stood in the doorway, suitcase in hand. She wasn't looking at me, she was looking past me, out into the driveway where my best friend Ethan was waiting with the car door open. She walked out with him like it was no big deal, like she was just leaving for a weekend trip, not leaving our entire life in ruins on the living room floor. I smiled. I kept my poker face, the one I'd perfected over years of family dinners and board meetings. I watched them go, the red taillights disappearing down our quiet suburban street. But I had a secret in my back pocket, a secret I'd been keeping for almost 2 years, one that would turn their entire world on its head. And they had a secret too, a secret that was growing day by day, a 9-month countdown to a catastrophe I never saw coming. You think you know how this ends? A broken heart, some angry text messages, a lonely pint of ice cream? Wait till you hear the rest. 3 weeks before my life imploded, it was perfect. Or at least the version of perfect I had convinced myself to believe in. We lived in a small town where the rhythm of life was dictated by the seasons. Summer meant late-night walks with the dog. Winter meant cozying up by the fire with cheap red wine. We had a life, a real, tangible life built over 5 years. I'm Chloe, by the way. I was 32, and I thought I had it all figured out. Maya was the artist, the free spirit. She saw beauty in things I'd walk right past, a crack in the sidewalk, the way the light hit a dusty window. I was the planner, the pragmatist. I made sure the bills were paid and the car had gas. We balanced each other out, or so I thought. And then there was Ethan, my best friend since college. He was the third leg of our stool, the one we called for everything, to help move a couch, to celebrate a promotion, to mediate an argument over what to watch on a Friday night. He was family. He'd sit at our kitchen island nursing a beer and listen to Maya talk about her art for hours. I thought it was sweet. I thought he was just being a good friend. Looking back now, I realized we were living on borrowed time. I just didn't see the writing on the wall because I was the one who'd helped hang the wallpaper. It's funny, the things your brain chooses to remember. The little splinters of memory that seem insignificant at the time, but later they become the corner pieces of the puzzle you didn't even know you were solving. A few months ago, Maya started getting sick in the mornings. Just a stomach bug, she'd say, waving me off as she rushed to the bathroom. She was tired all the time, falling asleep on the couch at 8 o'clock. Just stressed with the new project, she'd murmur. Her phone, which used to lie face up on the counter, was suddenly always face down, always on silent. Once, I saw a text from Ethan pop up while she was in the shower. It just said, "Did you tell her yet?" When I asked her about it, she got defensive. She said they were planning a surprise party for my birthday, which was still 4 months away. She called me paranoid, and because I loved her, because I trusted her, I let it go. I apologized. I made her breakfast in bed the next morning to make up for it. I was apologizing for her lie. The human mind has an incredible capacity for denial. We see the red flags, but we tell ourselves they're just decorations. We hear the alarm bells, but we convince ourselves it's just background music. We want to believe in the story we've written for ourselves, the one with the happy ending. I was sitting in my car after a brutal day at work, my side hustle work, the work nobody knew about. I was exhausted, scrolling through emails, trying to switch my brain from startup founder mode back to loving girlfriend mode before I went home. That's when my phone buzzed. It was a text from our mutual friend, Sarah. My stomach twisted into a knot before I even read the words. It felt like my body knew something was wrong before my brain did. My finger hovered over the notification. It was just a few words, a tiny collection of pixels on a glass screen, but I knew, deep down, that opening it would be like pulling the pin from a grenade. My perfect, carefully constructed life was about to be blown to pieces. What do you think was in that message? A warning? A confession? Let me know in the comments what you would have done in that moment. Would you open it right away, or would you drive home and pretend you never saw it? I never opened Sarah's text. I drove home, my heart pounding a frantic rhythm against my ribs, and walked into a war zone. The argument started over something so stupid, so ridiculously small, I can't even remember what it was. I think it was about the recycling. But it wasn't about the recycling, was it? It's never about the thing you're shouting about. It's about all the things you're not saying. The small disagreements spiraled, catching fire on months of unspoken resentment and secret lies. Her voice got louder, mine got colder, and then she said it, the words that every person in a relationship dreads hearing. "I can't do this anymore, Chloe." Just like that. 5 years summarized and dismissed in 5 words. I stood there, frozen as she walked into our bedroom. I heard drawers opening and closing, the distinct sound of clothes being thrown into a suitcase. A part of me wanted to run in there, to beg, to plead, to promise I'd be better, do better, whatever that meant. But another part of me, the part that had been quietly suffocating for months, just felt a strange, hollow sense of relief. The waiting was over. And then the final crushing blow, the real betrayal. It wasn't just that she was leaving, it was who she was leaving with. Ethan. My Ethan. He just stood there, a ghost in our hallway, refusing to look at me. The man who'd given a toast at my 30th birthday party, calling me his sister. The man who'd held my hand at my father's funeral. He was helping my girlfriend pack her bags to leave me. "What is he doing here?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. Maya didn't even flinch. "He's helping me," she said, as if it were the most natural thing in the world. "I'm going to stay with him for a while." Stay with him. The words echoed in the sudden silence of the room. The dog, who had been hiding under the table, let out a low whine. Outside, I could see the curtains of our neighbor's house twitch. Mrs. Gable from next door was getting the show of her life. I felt a hot wave of shame wash over me. I wasn't just being left, I was being publicly replaced, left high and dry for the whole town to see. They walked out and I didn't say a word. I just watched them go. As the door clicked shut, the silence they left behind was louder than any argument. I was left holding the bag of groceries for the dinner we were supposed to cook, the bag of broken promises, the bag of a future that had just been canceled without notice. My mind was a chaotic mess of disbelief and humiliation. How long had this been going on right under my nose? Was I a fool? Was I so blind that I couldn't see the 2 most important people in my life conspiring against me? The phone buzzed again. It was Sarah. I finally answered. Her voice was full of pity. "Chloe, I'm so sorry. I saw them together last week at that little diner out on the highway. He was holding her hand. I didn't know what to do. I didn't want to believe it." Holding her hand. It was such a small detail, but it was everything. It wasn't a mistake. It was a decision, a choice they had made together, while I was at home watering the plants they'd helped me pick out. Here's a question for you all. If the person you loved left you for your best friend, would you chase after them and demand answers? Or would you lock the door, change the locks, and walk away for good? Tell me what you'd do. I spent the next 2 days in a fog. I called in sick to my real job, ignored the frantic emails from my startup partners, and just existed. I walked the dog. I cleaned the house, scrubbing away every trace of her. I packed up her things into boxes and stacked them in the spare room. It was a mechanical process, a way to keep my hands busy so my mind wouldn't completely unravel. Then, on the 3rd day, an email landed in my inbox. The subject line was just 1 word: proof. The sender was anonymous. My hand trembled as I clicked it open. It was a picture, and it showed something that shattered every last shred of hope I had left. There it was, irrefutable. A single photograph that told a whole story. It wasn't just the way he looked at her or the way her hand was resting on his. It was his hand on her belly. A gentle, protective gesture. A gesture that screamed ownership. A gesture that finally made sense of the morning sickness, the fatigue, the secrets. My blood ran cold. It wasn't just an affair. It was a new family. My chest tightened until I could barely breathe. Every memory I had of the 3 of us together suddenly replayed in my mind. But this time, it was like watching a different movie. all the little moments were cast in a new, sinister light. Ethan putting a blanket over a sleeping Maya on the couch while I was in the kitchen. Ethan and Maya sharing a private, knowing smile across the dinner table. Ethan telling me, "You two are perfect together. I hope I find something like that one day," while his eyes were fixed on Maya. I smelled a rat, but I kept telling myself it was just a mouse. How could I have been so stupid? Ethan and I had been inseparable since we were 18. We'd navigated terrible first dates, brutal college exams, and family tragedies together. He was my brother in everything but blood. I had trusted him with my life, and he had used that trust to steal it. The anger came then, hot and sharp, burning through the fog of grief. I needed a confrontation. I needed to see his face when I called him out. I drove to his apartment, the anonymous photo burning a hole in my phone's camera roll. He opened the door and his face, for a split second, showed a flash of panic before settling into a weary resignation. Maya was nowhere in sight. "Chloe," he said, blocking the doorway. "This isn't a good time." "I bet it isn't," I said, my voice dangerously calm. I held up my phone, the picture glowing in the dim hallway. "Care to explain this, Ethan, or should I just guess? Let's see. You were just checking to see if her lunch was digesting properly?" He flinched, but he didn't deny it. He just sighed, running a hand over his face. "Look, it's complicated." "No, it's not," I shot back. "It's simple. You're a liar and she's a cheater. What's complicated about that?" He finally looked at me, and there was no remorse in his eyes, just a cold, hard finality. "She's happy, Chloe. Can't you just be happy for her?" Happy for her? The audacity of it stole my breath. I wanted to scream, to hit him, to make him feel even a fraction of the pain that was ripping me apart. But instead, I just stared at him, this stranger who looked like my best friend. "Get out of my life," I said, the words feeling like gravel in my mouth. "Both of you." His response was the final twist of the knife. "It's not your life anymore, Chloe. It's ours now. You need to mind your own business and move on." Mind my own business. He said it so casually, as if I were some nosy neighbor and not the woman whose heart he had just helped stomp into the ground. I walked away from his door without another word. The fight was gone, replaced by a chilling clarity. They felt no guilt. In their story, I was the obstacle they had overcome. Tell me in the comments, did I miss the signs, or did they just hide it that well? Have you ever had a gut feeling that something was wrong, but you ignored it? I got back to my car, my hands shaking so badly I could barely put the key in the ignition. I sat there for a long time, just breathing, trying to piece together the fragments of my shattered reality. That's when my phone buzzed with a notification. It wasn't a text, it wasn't an email, it was from my bank. A notification for a transaction I had set up months ago, a transaction that was part of a secret life Maya and Ethan knew nothing about. For the last 2 years, I had been living a double life. By day, I was Chloe, the project manager at a mid-level marketing firm, the one who made a decent salary and contributed her half to the mortgage and the bills. But by night, and on weekends, and in every spare moment I could steal, I was someone else. I was the co-founder and lead developer of a small tech startup. It started as a passion project with a friend from college, a simple app designed to help freelance artists manage their finances. We built it from the ground up in my friend's garage, fueled by caffeine and a belief that we were onto something. For the first year, it was nothing. We made pennies. But then, it caught on. It got noticed. 6 months ago, a major tech corporation came knocking. They wanted to buy us out. The bank notification that pinged on my phone in the car that night, that was the final installment of the buyout, a 6-figure sum that landed in a business account Maya didn't even know existed. I had been quietly, meticulously building a fortune, and I hadn't told a soul. I know what you're thinking. Why would I keep something like that a secret from the person I was planning to spend my life with? The truth is, I did it to protect us, to protect her. Maya had always had a complicated relationship with money. She grew up with very little, and she saw wealth as something that changed people, that made them cold and distant. She loved our simple life. She loved me for being me, not for what I could provide. I wanted to be me, not the paycheck. I was afraid that if she knew, the dynamic between us would shift. She'd feel insecure, or she'd start to see me differently. I kept it under wraps, close to the vest, telling myself I'd reveal everything at the right moment. Maybe when we were ready to buy a house outright, or when she wanted to open her own art studio without worrying about the cost. It was supposed to be a gift, a foundation for our future. Now, it was my escape plan. The irony was suffocating. I had hidden my success to preserve a relationship that was already rotting from the inside out. I had been so worried about money changing things, and in the end, the thing that destroyed us was a betrayal that had nothing to do with money at all. Or so I thought. When I started telling the story to my close friends, the first thing they said was, "You have to destroy them. Use that money to make their lives a living hell." The idea was tempting. I could hire the best lawyer in the state, bleed them dry, make them regret the day they ever crossed me. I could see it playing out in my head, a satisfying revenge fantasy. But then what? I'd have an empty victory and a heart full of poison? I resisted that path. That wasn't who I wanted to be. I have to ask you this. If you had a secret that you knew would change everything in your relationship, a good secret, like a lottery win or a huge promotion, would you tell the one you love right away, or would you wait? Let me know your thoughts down below. My shame over keeping the secret quickly turned into a cold, hard resolve. This money wasn't for revenge, it was for my freedom. It meant I didn't have to fight over the apartment or the car or the stupid Scandinavian furniture we'd spent weeks assembling. I could just leave. I could cut the cord cleanly and completely. A few days later, Sarah called again. She'd had a tearful, guilt-ridden conversation with Maya, and she told me the real reason Maya said she left. It wasn't because I was paranoid or because we were fighting about recycling. The reason she gave was so twisted, so profoundly self-serving, that it made my blood boil all over again. According to Maya's sob story to Sarah, she left because she felt unseen. She claimed I was always working, always distracted, that I was more passionate about my job at the marketing firm than I was about her. The irony was so thick I could have choked on it. The late nights I was working on a marketing proposal, I was coding, debugging, and taking calls with investors in my car so she wouldn't overhear. The weekends I was at a company retreat, I was flying to Silicon Valley to negotiate the deal that would have set us up for life. Every sacrifice I made for our future, she twisted into a story of neglect. And guess who was there to listen, to nod sympathetically, and tell her what she wanted to hear? Ethan. He played the role of the good listener to perfection, validating her feelings, telling her she deserved better. He wasn't her lover, he was her enabler. He watered the seeds of discontent that he had helped her plant. I hit rock bottom in those first few weeks. The person I was supposed to be, the happy, successful woman with the perfect life, was a fraud. My relationship was a lie, my best friend was a traitor, and I was completely and utterly alone. But I refused to play the villain in their story. I wouldn't be the crazy ex-girlfriend who slashed their tires or posted angry rants on social media. I was going to handle this with a quiet dignity they didn't deserve. The social fallout was immediate and brutal. Our shared circle of friends was forced to pick sides. Text threads I wasn't a part of were leaked to me by loyalists like Sarah. Half of our friends believed Maya's story. I was the career-obsessed workaholic who let the best thing in my life slip away. The other half saw through the lies, but they mostly just offered awkward, pitying condolences. I became a social pariah in my own town. Every trip to the grocery store was an exercise in avoiding eye contact. I considered my options. I could post the photo. I could forward the anonymous email to everyone we knew. I could expose them for the liars they were. But what would that achieve? A few moments of vindictive satisfaction, followed by more drama, more gossip, more pain. When your entire social circle turns against you, do you fight to clear your name, or do you fold and just walk away? Vote in the comments. Fight or fold? The last straw came a week later. I was supposed to be moving my things out of the apartment we once shared. I called Ethan to coordinate a time when Maya wouldn't be there. I didn't want to see her. He was arrogant, condescending, already acting like the man of the house. He put me on speakerphone and I could hear Maya in the background. "Just get her stuff out as soon as possible," she said, her voice dripping with impatience. "I don't want any of her energy left in this place." My energy. The energy that paid for half of the damn place. I was about to hang up when Ethan, the idiot, slipped up. He must have thought the call had ended. His voice was low, conspiratorial. "Don't worry, babe. We just have to wait till the baby is born. Once we establish paternity, we can push for support. Her salary's good. We can get something out of her for sure." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. They weren't just stealing my life, they were planning to send me a bill for it. They saw my respectable middle-class salary as their future safety net. They assumed I was just a moderately successful project manager with no real assets, no way to fight back. They thought they could bully me into submission. I stood there, in the silence of my new, empty apartment, listening to the recording. I had it. The proof. 3 sentences that exposed their entire grotesque plan. But now I had a choice. Should I use it? Power, I realized, isn't about shouting the loudest. It's about having options when the other person thinks you have none. Holding that recording felt like holding a weapon. My first instinct was to fire it, to send it to everyone, to humiliate them, to watch their little plan crumble. But as I sat there, looking at my reflection in the dark screen of my phone, I saw a woman I didn't want to be. Vengeance is a bitter meal, and it rarely satisfies. I made a decision. I wasn't going to use my money for revenge. I was going to use it to buy my peace. The recording wasn't a weapon to use against them. It was a shield to protect myself. Financial independence meant I didn't have to play their game. I could just walk off the field. Money can't buy back trust, but it can buy you a clean slate. It can buy you a moving truck and a one-way ticket out of hell. I hired the best family law attorney in the state.
I didn't tell her about my startup money at first. I just laid out the basic facts of the breakup. Then I played her the recording. Her eyebrows shot up. "Well," she said, a slow smile spreading across her face, "that certainly simplifies things." Armed with legal counsel and a clear head, I arranged one final meeting. Not an angry showdown, but a quiet, final transaction. I met them at the apartment. It was the first time I had seen Maya since the night she left. She was visibly pregnant now, and for a moment it knocked the wind out of me. She looked tired, and there were dark circles under her eyes. Ethan stood beside her, his arm draped possessively around her shoulders. He looked smug. "Let's make this quick," he said. "We've made a list of the things Maya is entitled to." He slid a piece of paper across the counter. It was a ridiculous list, demanding half of everything, including my future earnings, citing emotional distress. I didn't even look at it. I slid it back. "That won't be necessary," I said, my voice even. I placed a set of documents on the counter. "This is a dissolution agreement. It states that our domestic partnership is terminated. I will be taking my personal belongings, and you can have the rest. The furniture, the appliances, everything. It's all yours." They stared at me, confused. This wasn't the fight they were expecting. "What's the catch?" Ethan asked, his eyes narrowed with suspicion. No catch, I said. I'm also paying off the remaining 8 months on the lease. As of the 1st of next month, this apartment is entirely your responsibility. I am absolving myself of any and all connection to this place and to you. Maya finally spoke, her voice small. Chloe, why are you doing this? Because I'm done, I said, looking her directly in the eye for the first time. I'm done with the fighting, the lies, the drama. You wanted this life? You can have it. But you will have it without me. Then I took out my phone. I didn't play the recording for them to hear. I just held it up. And just so we're clear, I said, my voice dropping to a steely whisper, any attempt to contact me, to ask me for money, to seek any kind of support, now or in the future, will be met with legal action supported by evidence of your fraudulent intentions. Do you understand? I saw the color drain from Ethan's face. He knew exactly what I was talking about. He looked shaken, his smug facade completely crumbling. Maya just looked lost. In that moment, I didn't feel anger. I didn't even feel pity. I felt nothing, and nothing was a beautiful, liberating feeling. I chose my personal peace over the grand gesture of revenge. I had turned the tables not by destroying them, but by simply refusing to play. That's my question for you all this time. Would you rather win the argument or win your peace? Tell me why in the comments. I'm genuinely curious.
I picked up my single box of personal items, a few books, a framed photo of my dad, my laptop, and walked to the door. I didn't look back. I closed the door on my old life, and for the first time in months, I felt like I could breathe again. I had shown them and myself that true power isn't about hurting people. It's about having the strength to heal yourself. That night, I was in a hotel looking at real estate listings in a city 1,000 miles away. My phone rang. It was an unknown number. I almost ignored it, but something made me answer. The call that came next was one that nobody, least of all me, could have ever seen coming. It's been 6 months since I walked out of that apartment. 6 months since I packed up my life and drove west until my old town was just a bad memory in the rear-view mirror. My new routine is simple. I work from my home office, running the company I built. I take the dog to a park where nobody knows my name. I've discovered a little coffee shop that makes the perfect latte, and the barista doesn't look at me with pity in her eyes. I'm healing. I learned a lot from that implosion. I learned that trust is a fragile thing, easily broken and almost impossible to repair. I learned that sometimes the quietest exit is the most powerful statement. And I learned that forgiveness is something you do for yourself, not for the people who hurt you. I forgive them, not because they deserve it, but because I deserve to be free of the anger. I let it all go. The final closure, the final unexpected twist in the story came from that late-night phone call. It wasn't Maya, it wasn't Ethan, it was Ethan's mother. I hadn't spoken to her in years. Her voice was strained and she sounded like she had been crying. "Chloe," she began, "I know I have no right to ask you for anything, but I'm at my wit's end. Maya, she had the baby a month ago, and then she left. She just packed a bag and left Ethan and the baby. She said he wasn't who she thought he was, that the reality of it all was too much. He's a wreck, Chloe. He has no idea how to be a father, and he's all alone." Maya had left him. The great love story, the one that was worth destroying 2 other lives for, had crumbled under the weight of reality. A baby, bills, responsibility, it was all too much for her. She had run, just like she always did. The irony was so bitter it was almost poetic. Ethan had gotten exactly what he thought he wanted, and it had ruined him. His mother wasn't calling to ask me for help. She was calling to apologize, to tell me she was sorry for how her son had behaved, and that she hoped I had found happiness. It was an unexpected olive branch from the last person I ever expected to hear from. A small act of grace in the middle of all the ugliness. And so, here we are. A new city, a new life, a future that's entirely my own. The wounds are still there, but they're scars now, not open gashes. They remind me of what I survived. I want to thank you all for listening to my story. If you've been through something similar, I want you to know you're not alone. Please share your stories in the comments, vote in the polls, and let me know what you would have done in my shoes. My final question for you is this: if you could go back to the moment right before a major life change, what one thing would you do differently? Drop it below. I read every single comment, and your stories help me as much as I hope mine helps you. My life is my own now, and I'm not letting anyone else write the next chapter.